This video is sponsored by Brilliant. If you decide to recreate anything, it is at your own risk, and I do not accept responsibility.
Sure is a fine-looking
molecule.
Yeah. What's that? Is that the
Potential methylene bridge.
Yeah. And the
Aldehyde functional group.
Yeah. Oh, looks good.
Today we're going to be making 3,4-dihydroxybenzaldehyde, and we're going to do a demethylation of vanillin. In a second video after that, we're going to do a methylation reaction, and we're going to get piperonal after that. I still can't get the DEA to text me back. Anyway, we're going to start out with a 1 liter round bottom boiling flask, and we're going to have all these attachments on there. At the top of the condenser, I added a drying tube with some calcium chloride. This is important as we want a moisture-free environment. The thermometer is extremely important as we need to monitor the reaction at specific temperatures. Don't you worry, I will show you exactly why it's so important. We're going to start out with some vanillin, and you'll notice that I didn't put any measurements on here. And that's for good reason. Remember how I said the temperature is extremely important? Well, I'm going to show you why. I am going to show the entire reaction first, and then the mistake I made and the correction that I did. So I added the vanillin to the flask, and I got ready to put some DCM in there. I didn't dry my DCM, though it would have been a very good idea to do so. The DCM is going to be our solvent today, as vanillin is extremely soluble in it, and it works really well for the reaction. The yellow earwax looking substance that you see is anhydrous aluminum chloride. The fumes that you see off of it is hydrogen chloride gas. It reacts with the moisture in the air, and it releases that gas out. Since this reacts so fast, we have to add it in quickly, and then make sure that it's sealed up and put away right away. Surprisingly, it's not that fun to huff in hydrogen chloride gas. Before I added my next reagent, I made sure to stopper the flask. I was curious to see if it was exothermic in any way, and I really didn't feel a difference at all. The procedure describes to add pyridine at a temperature of 30 to 35 degrees Celsius. Now it also says that it needed to be cooled to maintain at that. I took it as, oh, this is going to be exothermic, and I have to cool it to keep it around that temperature. Supposedly it was supposed to be a vigorous reaction, and I put this into an ice bath, so it didn't do that. Since I didn't see that vigorous reaction, I just dumped all the pyridine in there, and it created this really cool color complex that's in the flask. Since I love to cyberbully, I think I finally got my punishment, and, well, why do the good things in life last so shortly? Just look at the horror. It reminded me of when I did No Note November, and it was December 1st. It sprayed the majority of the reaction flask all over the ground and on many other things that was around it. The only problem was everything smelled like a mix of pyridine and vanillin. It was really odd because it smelled really good and really bad at the same time. Man, don't you just hate having human error? I know I do. I wish there was a website that I could learn more about critical thinking skills and chemistry. I really hope it's free and easy too. Oh wait! There is a website, and that's brilliant.org. Brilliant is really just the best way to learn math, data science, computer science, and chemistry. Just take a quick quiz when you sign up, and you'll be matched with content that fits your skill level and interests, whether you're a complete beginner or you're ready to write programs for a quantum computer. In the new How Technology Works course, you can explore topics like what actually makes a password good, or how recommendation algorithms know what content you'll like. Brilliant is also just fun and interactive, with thousands of lessons from basics to advanced topics, and new lessons are added every single month. I've been going over their chemistry course, and I really like that I can build daily learning habits that will help further solidify my chemistry knowledge. To try everything Brilliant has to offer free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/chemdelic or click on the link in the description. The first 200 of you will get 20% off of Brilliant's annual premium subscription. This is a really good deal, so make sure you really click that button. Okay, let's get back to it. This time, I fixed my mistake, and I'm going to add everything at the temperatures that they recommend. This time, I waited between 30 and 35 degrees Celsius before adding the pyridine in. As we add the pyridine, it fumes and it frosts a little bit as I start adding more in. I can really see why it's important to add at this temperature, as if I added a lot at this temperature, it would have frothed and exploded out. The reason that I did it before was purely educational and not because of my own mistakes. At the correct temperature, I made sure to slowly add the pyridine and try to maintain it at that 30 to 35 degrees Celsius. We now need to raise the temperature to 45 degrees Celsius and let it react for 24 hours. The procedure mentions that after all the pyridine was added, we would see a slight orange color. However, I never really saw that, and I had to heat it for a bit before I even saw any of it. It started with yellow chemistry, and it had this solid on the inside of the flask, and I'm not really sure what it was. I did this reaction outside, but the only problem was there was a huge storm that was going on, and there was a lot of rain. I made sure to wrap all of the electronics in some plastic bags, as I really didn't want this to short out and stop the reaction midway through. This is what our reaction flask looked like after 24 hours, and now we need to get it down to 25 to 30 degrees Celsius for the next step. We need to hydrolyze this now, and we're going to use some 15 to 20% hydrochloric acid solution. This will push our product into the aqueous layer, and we can then extract it with ether. The reference that I used mentioned that we need to have it at 25 to 30 degrees Celsius during the addition. However, I really didn't do it at that temperature, and it was slightly above. I would have cooled everything and kept it at that temperature, however, there was a huge amount of rain that was going on and it was late at night. There was a lot of solids on the inside of the reaction flask, and every time I added hydrochloric acid, it would slowly dissolve. I added enough hydrochloric acid for one, it would be at a pH of 2, and that everything was dissolved. The reaction mixture also turned a reddish color, and it kind of matched our pH strip. After everything was dissolved and our pH was correct, I just let it stir for about 5 to 10 minutes after. Once I took it out of the heating mantle, we can see our two separate layers, the bottom being the DCM layer and the top being our aqueous layer. The aqueous layer should contain our product, and you can also see that we still have a little bit of solid in that DCM layer. What I decided to do was put everything into a separatory funnel, and then I was going to wash that flask out with some dilute hydrochloric acid. And by dilute, I just mean the 15 to 20% solution. This should get that product out and dissolve in the aqueous layer. We don't actually need the DCM layer anymore, and it should have any unreactive vanillin in it. As I told you previously, I added a little bit of the acid into the flask, and it eventually dissolved all the products. I drained the bottom DCM layer, and I discarded it before continuing. We are going to be using ether as our extraction solvent, and I got it from Synthetica Chemicals. I also got the pyridine and aluminum chloride from there. I also have a discount code, so make sure to use that. I did 3 100 milliliter ether extractions, and I just based that off of 1/3 of the reaction mixture volume. They didn't say in the procedure what they used, so I just based it off of that. After I shook gently and vented, we can see that the ether layer has a slight yellow tint to it now. I drained the bottom aqueous layer, and I put it in the reaction flask that I used before. This way, I don't have to wash any more glassware. Which I hate, by the way. After doing all of the 3 extractions, I put a little bit of molecular sieves in there, and I let it dry. Looking back on the procedure, I really wish I did a 4th extraction. Once it was dried, I poured it into a crystallizing dish, and I let the ether evaporate. The reference that I used didn't say if they applied heat or not, they just said they let it evaporate, so I just applied some minor heating and a fan to evaporate everything. I was also very happy to see something on the side of the crystallizing dish, and I was pretty happy. After I let it evaporate, we have these yellow crystals, which have a really weird smell too. I really can't explain it, but it didn't smell like vanillin at all. Although it smelled very different, I did smell a very faint vanillin smell, and likely we have a small impurity in our product. The DCM was supposed to trap any of the vanillin that didn't react, but I might have had a little bit in this. I took all the crystals out, and it kind of looks like cornflakes. I was supposed to get pale yellow crystals, but I got yellow crystals, and that might have something to do with me heating it a little bit, but I'm not really sure. In the end, we got a yield of about 9.48 grams and a percent yield of 52.11%. The reference that I used said they got a percent yield of like 87%, but I don't know if I believe them. I also did a melting point test, as I don't want that chemist to make a video about me. The melting point that I observed was about 144 through 148 degrees Celsius, with literature being 150 through 157 degrees Celsius. This also makes me happy as vanilin's melting point is about 81 through 83 degrees Celsius, which means we definitely have something. Impurities can lower the melting point, which did make me happy because this is a lowered melting point, but it also made me unhappy as I do have some impurities. Doing other analysis techniques will likely be a good idea, such as NMR, IR, TLC, and other ones. This is just kind of a guess as to what I have, and I'm just going to go forward with the reaction for part 2. Let us pray that it actually is this. I also want to point out that my melting point setup wasn't the best, and I actually had the thermometer a little bit higher than what it needed to be, and my temperature might have been off a little bit. Huge thank you to all my Patreon supporters. Seriously, thank you so much for supporting the channel. I cannot thank you enough, and I just hope you all have a good day. And like, I mean all of you, not just the Patreon supporters, like all of you have a good day. There's also some merch that I made, so if you want to be absolutely dripped out in Chemdelic merch, you can grab some, but don't feel obligated to.